So we're joined by toxicologist Dr. Gerhard Verdoorn to weigh in on the Johannesburg CBD gas explosion on Wednesday evening. We're looking at the dangers that still exist in the surrounding areas as the source of the gas explosion has not yet been conclusively established. Dr. Gerhard, good afternoon. Thank you for your time with us here on the SABC.
Good afternoon.
So we're trying to understand what dangers still exist for those who live in the surrounding areas on the back of the Johannesburg CBD gas explosion that occurred. Yesterday during the briefing, there were sentiments reflected about trapped gas that needs to be blown off. And at this point, they've cordoned off some of the affected areas. I wonder if you could explain that phenomenon in relation to the gas explosion that occurred.
Well, what I heard from the media and from the news and from the people from Joburg Metro was that the gas came from a very old gas pipe which was linked to that to the gas tanks in Auckland Park. It wasn't the new gas line or the gas line which belonged to Sasol. So the new gas line, the Sasol gas line, that's still intact. It still serves all the people with their gas requirements. But this gas pipe was basically unknown because it was so old. And what happened, the pipe, probably because of old age, started getting perforated and it started leaking gas into that underground conduit where all the pipes and the water run. And you must understand one thing clearly from any natural gas like methane gas or propane gas, which we use for cooking. When it starts mixing with oxygen, it reaches a critical mixture, and that critical mixture just needs one little flash or one little vibration from something to explode. And that is what probably happened in the area. Now, I think the main threat is basically over because there was major destruction of the road structure, like you see on the screen right now, and there is proper ventilation. So I do not believe that there's a chance for a second explosion, even though people still smell, they say they smell the gas. It's not actually the gas, it's actually hydrogen sulfide, because whenever you make natural gas available to people, you add a bit of hydrogen sulfide so that people can detect when there's a gas leak. So I do not believe, despite the fact that people still smell a bit of hydrogen sulfide, there can be an explosion because if there's good ventilation and if the metro and the people do the stuff right and they seal that pipe off, it should be able to contain the situation. But they need to get rid of that pipe, or they need to seal the pipe off, especially at the main source. So if the source will be then at Auckland Park, where the gas tanks are, they need to seal the pipe off at that spot, and then they can remove the pipe or ventilate the pipe properly, get rid of all the gas. So that is what I understand from the situation currently.
Because ultimately the safety of people and property has come to the fore during this incident. And there have been other gas incidents in the country as well. So we're really questioning, the threat of gas explosions in South Africa. So on the back of that, what are the signs of a gas leak detection? How do we undergo that process as an ordinary citizen? And what are some of the safety tips then to avoid in the event of a gas explosion, should it occur?
Okay, for the normal home gas, in other words, natural gas, which is methane, or then synthetic gas, which is what we buy in the normal gas bottles, which is the propane gas, you need to acquaint yourself with the smell or the odor of that gas. And like I said, in all the commercial gas made available to people, there's always a bit of hydrogen sulfide because it's got that pungent odor like rotten eggs. And the moment you smell that, you know there's gas in the area. So when you light up your normal gas stove at home, whether you've got a small one or a big one, you will always smell that little bit of hydrogen sulfide at the beginning. Okay, so that's normal. It also burns. It's also flammable like methane or propane. No problem with that. But if you're in an area and there's no gas stove actively burning, or you don't have a gas barbecue outside and you smell that rotten egg smell, it's a very good indication that there is probably a gas leak from methane gas or LPG gas. So you need to acquaint yourself and your children and people about that. And when you smell that and there's no open flame anywhere, it burns the gas, I think it's a good idea to vacate the area as soon as possible, and at least I would say 250 meters away from that, because once the air starts being saturated with the gas, it reaches that critical mixture, what we call the critical mass, and explodes. It can kill a lot of people, even in the open air. And if it's inside a house, even worse, because then the gas is contained, and the percussion then is even worse than when you get it in an open area like you saw in Johannesburg. So that is what you need to detect for normal gas. Now, what happened earlier on, a week or two ago, with the nitrogen dioxide gas, again, the moment you smell something which is unusual in the environment, you need to get out of the site. Now, many of the people in that case in Boksburg ran away and they escaped death. Unfortunately, I think 19 people died in the process. So we have a situation in the country where a lot of illegal immigrants and people that operate unlawfully with whatever get their hands onto these noxious gases, and they don't know anything about the risk or the harm that these things can cause and the dangers, and that is why people are dying because of it. So my explanation to our citizens, doesn't matter where you live in the country, is if you smell anything funny, vacate the area. I do think we have a problem because I was up in Gauteng recently. I only came back to Joburg today, and at night in the greater part of Gauteng, there's so much smoke because of all the fires. People make fires with wood or with wet wood, or they even use tires to make a fire to cook food and to warm up. You will hardly be able to smell anything funny in that noxious smog, if I can call that. So I think it's a problem for the poorer areas where people won't be able to smell that other smell when they're cooking on a fire indoors, or they're cooking on a fire outdoors, and there is a leak of anything like a methane gas or propane gas or nitrogen dioxide, or even what we heard of possibly an ammonia explosion that happened in Kenton Park a few days ago.
Dr. Gerhard Verdoorn, thank you for weighing in on the back of that Johannesburg CBD gas explosion that occurred. It obviously also follows the briefing that happened yesterday, where we know that no criminal element was linked to Wednesday's gas explosion. But Dr. Gerhard was really walking us through, the issues and the dangers that still exist, and really where to from here, perhaps the threat that poses to South Africa at large.